I was tied up, blindfolded, and alone with a man who had already killed. I could smell the sweat on his skin, hear the way his breathing changed when I spoke. I knew if I wanted to live, I had to play a game, and I had to win. But here's the part no one ever expects: when I escaped, bloody and terrified, and told the police everything. They didn't believe me. It was a quiet night in Tampa, Florida, just another shift over at Krispy Kreme. I was 17, tired, and riding my bike home in the dark like I always did. But something felt off. Have you ever had that feeling like someone is watching you, like the shadows are moving even when you're not? I didn't know it yet, but a predator was already following me. As I pedaled down the empty sidewalk, a car pulled up. Before I could even scream, a man jumped out and shoved a gun into my ribs. The world went black as a blindfold tightened over my eyes. My life, everything I knew, was about to be erased. I woke up in a bed that wasn't mine. My wrists were tied, my mouth dry, my body aching in places I didn't want to name. The man, I would later learn his name was Bobby Joe Long, was moving around the room like I wasn't even a person, like I was something he'd bought and brought home. He spoke in short, cold commands. Don't scream. Don't look at me. Don't move unless I say so. He didn't care that I was crying. He didn't care that I begged. He had done this before I could feel it in the way he handled everything, calm, practiced. But I made a choice right then. I wasn't going to just survive. I was going to remember every smell, every sound, every detail I could use later if I ever made it out alive. Most people freeze, some fight. But I did something else. I talked. Why are you doing this? I asked softly. You don't have to hurt me. I think you're smart. You don't seem like the other guys. I played a role. The role of someone who wasn't afraid. I told him I liked him. I told him I understood him. I fed his ego because it was the only weapon I had. Every time he turned away, I looked. I memorized the furniture, the blankets, the way the curtains let in light. And when I asked to use the bathroom, I left fingerprints everywhere. On the sink, on the doorknob, on the toilet handle. Anything to leave a trail behind, a breadcrumb to follow if someone ever cared enough to look. The clock never ticked. I had no way of knowing if it was morning or night. But I was still alive, and that meant I had time. He kept me there for what would later be known as 26 hours. That's more than a full day, tied up, violated, spoken to like I was nothing. But I kept playing the game. I asked him questions. I made him believe I cared. Not because I actually did, but because I knew I had to keep him talking. The more he said, the more I could remember. I noticed the way he flinched when I mentioned parents. I clocked the color of his sheets, the cigarettes he smoked, the smell of cheap cologne. All of it was evidence. All of it was survival. Then something happened. After more than a full day of torment, he stood over me and said 5 words I never expected. I'm going to let you go. What? Why? Did I say something right? Did he feel sorry for me? Was it part of another sick game? He shoved me back into his car blindfolded, heart pounding, and drove. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know if this was just the beginning of something worse. And then he stopped. He opened the door and he told me to get out and run. No looking back, no second chances. I ran. I didn't even feel my legs. I just ran. I found a phone, called the police, told them everything. I expected help. I expected someone to rush in and believe me. Instead, they looked at me like I was crazy. They asked weird questions. Are you sure you didn't imagine it? Do you know this man personally? Why didn't you fight back harder? It was like being attacked all over again. I survived a serial killer, and now I was being interrogated like I was the criminal. But I didn't back down. I told them every detail I had memorized. I told them what I touched, what I saw, what he said. And I waited, because I knew I was right, even if no one else believed me yet. Days passed, then weeks, still no arrest, no updates. But something strange started happening in the background. Other girls, other bodies began to come up in nearby counties. The details, eerily familiar. Same method, same victim profile, same twisted signs of control and dominance. Lisa's story, the one they doubted. It suddenly started to echo in crime scenes all over Florida. Could it really be coincidence? Or was her captor still out there hunting while the police sat on the truth? Enter Detective Larry Pinkerton. Unlike the others, he didn't brush Lisa off. He sat with her, listened carefully. And when she repeated everything from the red carpet to the brand of soda in the fridge, he didn't laugh. He wrote it all down. Then he cross-referenced her description with reports of unsolved cases. And there it was, a pattern. Lisa had described the exact kind of restraints used in another murder. She mentioned a car that matched one scene in another victim's last sighting. Lisa wasn't just telling the truth. She was the key to unlocking the entire case. Detectives finally had enough. They issued a sting. Quiet, precise, no media, no noise. The suspect's name, Bobby Joe Long. The same man who let Lisa go. The same man who had been killing in silence. When they raided his apartment, it was like stepping into a nightmare. Lisa's fingerprints, right there on the bathroom faucet. The blankets she described, still on the bed. The red carpet, exactly as she said. Everything Lisa remembered, everything was real. She hadn't just survived a killer. She had outsmarted him. It didn't take much. Once police had the evidence, Lisa's account, the matching crime scenes, the physical proof, they moved fast. Bobby Joe Long was arrested on November 6, 1984. But even in cuffs, he acted like it was all just normal. No remorse, no panic, just cold, empty eyes. In his apartment, police found even more. Photos, notes, a sick, organized system of control, and worst of all, keepsakes from the girls he had taken. Hair, jewelry, clothing, trophies from his victims. Lisa had been right about every last detail. But the nightmare wasn't over, because now she had to face him in court. When Bobby Joe Long finally spoke, he denied everything. Said Lisa was confused. Said maybe she was just looking for attention. Even tried to paint himself as a misunderstood man with issues. But prosecutors had one thing he didn't count on. Lisa. And when she stood up to testify face to face with the man who kidnapped her, she didn't flinch. She looked him in the eye. She told the court what he did, and she did it with a voice that didn't shake. She wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for every girl who never made it home. The trial sent shockwaves through Florida. Lisa's testimony lit a fire. Women came forward. Old cases reopened. Suddenly, Bobby Joe Long wasn't facing one accusation. He was facing dozens. Over time, he confessed to 10 murders. But investigators believed the true number could be higher. He was sentenced to death. Justice finally was in motion. But the scars? They don't vanish with a verdict. Lisa had survived a serial killer. Now she had to survive the weight of what came after. The headlines were everywhere. Teen girl outsmarts serial killer. The one who got away. Lisa McVey, the girl who helped catch a monster. TV crews showed up. Interview requests flooded in. People called her brave, called her lucky, called her a hero. But behind the cameras, she was still 17, still healing, still waking up in the middle of the night, hearing his voice. Have you ever had the world cheering for you, while your own mind is still trying to make sense of what happened? That was Lisa's reality. Lisa didn't tell the world everything. She kept some things buried even from herself, like the fact that before the kidnapping, she had already been suffering in silence. Her home life was dark. She had even written a goodbye letter ready to take her own life the very night she was taken. Think about that for a second. She wanted to die, then fought with everything she had not to. That experience didn't just change her life, it saved it. And maybe in the deepest, most painful way, that's why she fought so hard to survive. Most people would want to forget, disappear, start over. But Lisa McVey made a different choice. She became a deputy with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. She trained, she studied, she worked in the same field that once doubted her. She started helping kids, runaways, abuse victims, forgotten cases. She became the voice she never had. Lisa didn't just escape a serial killer. She turned her survival into a mission. Years passed. The media moved on. But Lisa stayed right where it all happened in Florida, wearing a badge. She walked the same halls where officers once questioned her story. She sat in the same interrogation rooms, only now she was on the other side of the table. Sometimes the kids she helped didn't believe in themselves, didn't think anyone would listen. Lisa would look them in the eye and say, "I know what it's like not to be believed, but I'm here and I believe you." That's a kind of justice that no courtroom can deliver. In May of 2019, after 35 years on death row, Bobby Joe Long was executed by lethal injection. Lisa got a letter, an invitation to witness it in person. She accepted. She sat there, watching the man who nearly ended her life. Now powerless, now silent. And when it was over, she said just 4 words to the press. "Justice has finally been served." But justice doesn't erase pain. It doesn't undo what happened. It just ends the chapter. Lisa doesn't speak often. When she does, it's soft, thoughtful, focused. She knows her story shocks people. She knows the details are hard to hear. But she also knows there's a girl out there right now, scared, alone, maybe even doubting her own worth, who needs to hear that survival is possible. Lisa's story isn't about what happened to her. It's about what she did with it. It's about staying alive long enough to become someone no one could ignore. Most people know Lisa McVey's name from the news, but they don't know the moment that still haunts her. It wasn't the screams. It wasn't the blindfold. It wasn't even the 26 hours of horror inside that house. It was the hour before it all started. The moment she stood in her bedroom holding a note she had written, a goodbye letter. She was ready to end her life that night. She felt invisible, broken, forgotten. And then fate, chaos, tragedy, whatever you want to call it, interrupted her plan in the most violent way imaginable. She was kidnapped by a serial killer. And somehow, that was the turning point that saved her life. Because in those hours of fear, she rediscovered something she didn't know she had left: the will to survive. Lisa once said, "Maybe I was meant to be taken, because maybe I was meant to save someone else." And she did. Her courage helped catch a killer. Her testimony gave other families peace. Her strength told 1,000 silent victims, "You are not alone." Lisa McVey survived one of the worst things a person can live through. And when the world didn't believe her, she proved them wrong. When the media moved on, she stayed to help others. When her abuser was sentenced, she showed up. not with anger, but with grace. And today she walks with quiet power, not because the past is forgotten, but because it shaped her into someone unstoppable. She says it's simply no drama, no spotlight. I wasn't supposed to live, but I did. And I lived so I could protect others. And maybe that's the part we'll remember most. Not just the horror she endured, but the way she turned pain into purpose, silence into justice, and survival into something bigger than herself.